the code running your Airbnb booking was written by AI, and the company thinks that's worth celebrating. CEO Brian Chesky announced in May 2026 that artificial intelligence now writes 60% of Airbnb's new code. He went further. Where you used to need 20 engineers, he said, one engineer can now spin up AI agents to do the work. Wall Street loved it. The stock popped. But Chesky isn't alone. This is the new flex among tech CEOs, a number they're competing to top. Google's Sundar Pichai said 75% of the company's new code is AI-generated as of April 2026, up from just 25% in late 2024. Meta's internal documents show some engineering teams are required to hit 65 to 80% AI-written code by mid-2026. Microsoft, Uber, dozens of others, they're all announcing their percentages on earnings calls now, each one trying to signal they're more AI forward than the last. The logic is seductive. If AI writes code faster, you ship faster. If you ship faster, you win. Investors hear productivity. Engineers hear job security evaporating. But there's a third group hearing something else entirely: software consultants who get called in 2 years later to untangle the mess. James Shore, a veteran software consultant, published a piece in May 2026 with a blunt thesis: if your AI doubles your coding speed, it better cut your maintenance costs in half, or you're trading a temporary boost for permanent debt. Code doesn't just get written, it has to be maintained forever. Every line needs bug fixes, security patches, dependency upgrades. Shore's argument is mathematical. If you write twice as much code in the same time but it costs the same to maintain, you've just doubled your future workload. And if AI-generated code is harder to maintain, which early studies suggest it is, you're in worse shape than before. A March 2026 study analyzing 153 million lines of code found that AI-generated code introduces technical debt at a higher rate than human-written code. 89% of it contained code smells, 6% had runtime bugs, and 5% had security vulnerabilities. Another study found that 40% of AI-generated code gets rewritten within 2 weeks. Companies are now reserving 20% of every sprint just to refactor what the AI wrote. One developer put it plainly: our toil has moved from writing code to managing the debt AI creates. So why are CEOs bragging? Because the number sounds good, and it signals to investors that the company is riding the AI wave. It's a vanity metric in the same family as lines of code, a measure of activity, not value. Google didn't announce that its software is 75% better, or 75% faster, or that users love it 75% more. They announced that 75% of new code is AI-generated and reviewed by humans. The second part is doing a lot of quiet work in that sentence. The race is accelerating. Google tripled its percentage in 18 months. Airbnb's 60% was unthinkable 2 years ago. If the trend continues, we'll see CEOs announcing 90% by 2027. But the back-end consequences won't show up on an earnings call. They'll show up in 2028, when the code starts breaking in ways no one understands, because the engineer who reviewed it left, and the AI that wrote it can't explain why it made those choices. Maintenance costs will spike. Tech debt will compound. And someone will have to untangle it. The most honest thing Chesky said wasn't about productivity. It was quieter. Airbnb is also requiring managers to code or use tools like Claude Code, because in his words, pure people managers won't survive the AI era. That's not a productivity story. That's a survival story. When one engineer can do the work of 20, the other 19 aren't writing code anymore, they're looking for new jobs. And the one who remains is managing AI agents, not building software. They're a supervisor in a factory where the machines write code faster than any human can read it. The question no one is asking on these earnings calls is this: what happens when the code those machines wrote needs to be fixed, and the person who deployed it is gone, and the AI has moved on to the next sprint? You can't call the AI back to debug its own work. It doesn't remember. It doesn't learn from mistakes the way humans do. It just generates more code. Maybe the real metric isn't how much AI writes. Maybe it's how much of that code is still running, unchanged, 2 years later. But no CEO is going to brag about that number. Not yet.